High rates of Gen Z are entering STEM careers. Yet, why are there still so few women in engineering? We continue our pursuit of talking to the women who are in engineering. We go to University of Twente in the Netherlands. This time we're looking at chemical science and engineering. What is chemical science and engineering, and what adversities do women face in the study?
Everything's a chemical, technically. You wake up and be like, okay, time to battle the gender gap. It's never like, he's a Nobody's gonna say that about a man.
Today's guest is from Sri Lanka, but she lived a good portion of her life in Bangladesh. She now studies chemical science and engineering at the University of Twente, and also she tutors other students to help them thrive in their studies. This is the Gen Z in STEM podcast. I'm your host, Maya Druin, and I hope you're as curious as I am. Let's get to it. Vinaya.
Hello.
So you study chemical engineering at the University of Twente. If I know nothing whatsoever about chemical engineering, can you explain to me what is chemical engineering?
Chemical engineering is basically where you create or produce different sort of manufactured products. It can be like chemicals, pharmaceuticals, food, anything. And mostly we do processing of those. And in UT, chemical engineering, you can have a specialization. So basically you can have either process engineering or material science engineering, which is like the main things we do. So
Okay. And then so in the time you've had, because you've been like studying for a bit more than a year now, what kind of projects or things and like specific courses have you undergone?
So for the first module, we had like a project about research. We do a lot of research in this study. So we researched on how methane in dumps affect the environment and how you can prevent that, things like that. That was first module, and it was basically like an organic chemistry type of module. And then the second module was where we got a little into process engineering, and then we had to design an actual plant that made ethylene glycol. And that was kind of cool, actually, because you could actually make the mass balance and the heat balance, and you can sort of see like a mini-sized version of what you can actually do in the future. And in Module 3, it was again research, where we made something that could, what material could improve a biosensor sensitivity. So that was, again, a lot of research. And in Module 4, we did an electrochemistry one where we were in the lab and did experiments and then built up a hypothesis and saw where if it was right or wrong. So again, more research but hands-on.
Okay. And I heard at some point you go in the lab. Mm-hmm. How is it to go in the lab? Do you test chemicals? What's happening in the lab?
Okay. So it's not as cool as people think it is going into the lab, because Module 1 to 3, Module 1 we actually synthesized banana flavoring. And my test tube exploded, and I smelled like banana for 2-3 days later, because pressure. And but in Module 2, it was more process related, where we tested out things like a sister reactor, or just just different type of reactors and more process engineering related stuff. And then Module 3, we did more materials, so CDs and rubbery material and sort of that was in the lab. And in Module 4, it was you build your own experiment, and that was actually kind of a cool lab, because you get to see, okay, I'm going to test this today, and we're going to see if it's going to work out. And there's always a chance it's not going to work out, and then all of the work that you did for 2 days and 4 hours is over. So yeah, that's what we basically do.
But I guess it is what I would think is in the lab, because things exploded. So
yeah,
I guess somewhat it is. Okay. And so what was your favorite part of chemical engineering so far?
I think it was the process engineering part.
Mm-hmm.
I really do like building a plant. It's just, to me, it's so logical. It's basically mathematics, and you see, how much do I need to make, and what are the reactions happening here, and what is going to affect it, and we just adjust it according to the selectivity of it, and you can actually build a plant. And this module, we're doing a little more of process engineering, and it's a lot more complicated than a Module 2 project. And it's a lot of work, because our Excel sheet has I think 400-500 lines, but still it's it's fun, and I had fun. I'm having fun doing it.
I didn't even know Excel could have that many lines.
Oh, Excel's horrifying.
Okay, and so I was doing a bit of research trying to understand chemical engineering, and something that came up a lot of times was process engineering. But it seemed kind of linked. So first of all, what exactly is process engineering, and how is it interconnected to chemical engineering?
Process engineering, I think chemical engineers mostly end up as process engineers. Like, that is mostly their job. But process engineering is the whole processing of things. That's where it links to chemical engineering, because in chemical engineering you process things, but you use the chemistry, right? But process engineering is just, it's the same thing, but we call it chemical engineering because there's more chemistry. And because my program is called chemical science and engineering, actually. So there's a lot more chemistry, but I think process engineering is a more specific path you can take in comparison to chemical. I think chemical is more broad, but I'm not exactly sure.
Okay. And so, okay. So then process engineering could be just like with everything, like with just like generic things, or is that something?
Anything, like toothpaste. That's also a process technically. Like, how are you gonna like, what is in toothpaste? Or just any food. My uncle is a chemical engineer, and he does tea, actually, and he's about like how to dry tea without using a lot of chemicals, or like what are the different reactors you could use to dry, things like that. So I think chemical engineering is basically everything. Anything that you can process, you can be a chemical engineer and do that. That's kind of cool.
That's so cool, yeah. Okay, and so you also mentioned that in chemical engineering, there's quite a lot of, like, it's heavily research-based. But, so what part of this, like, analytical and, like, troubleshooting approach have you been able to apply into your life, if any, and how does it manifest?
So, again, research, I think it's more because my program, again, is chemical science and technology, engineering, which is it's not in the engineering technology faculty, it's in the science and engineering faculty. So I think you use more of research and I think they prepare you for an academic career a little. So there's a lot you do that is like conceptual modeling and things like just the way you think about research in general and how you search. For us, search reports, it's such a big thing. I'm not sure if this is just a UT thing either, but it's such a big thing where you have to, like, they teach you how to search for information and if this is, like, credible, or how to use Scopus but properly, and, like, all of the little, I guess, sort of, like, you can use, like, apostrophes, and then you can use asterisks, and this is how you use it type of thing. So it is very useful in general, because I'm learning how to search things in any database ever, which is very cool. And then you're also doing conceptual modeling, which is basically like a lot of critical thinking and like rationalizing, like, okay, so basically there's this problem, and then what is the next step from the problem? Okay, there's these solutions, but out of these solutions, which solution do you pick and why would you choose this solution? It's very logical again, and it just builds up onto basically something that is, again, a not serious version of like a research paper, but it's just an undergrad student, so nobody really cares. But if you, I think, build up on it, it's basically a research paper, and that's very helpful, I think, later, because I'm also thinking about something that is like an academic career, so it's very useful.
But I'm curious, like, so the connection to life, like, I mean, so you can use it academically, and then you know how to structure things if you're going into an academic career. But, like, I'm curious if, I don't know, just the structure, you know, you were talking about, if an information or something is credible. Do you go in life and, I don't know, watch news around you or watch a series and go like, I don't know about this and if this is credible, or does that not really?
I can do that with, like, basically things that are, you know, any product that has chemical, like whatever, the ingredients in it. I can read it and be like, oh, people always make such a big deal of chemicals. I think they go like, oh my god, this is bad, but everything's a chemical technically. So it's very funny to me when people are like, oh my god, no, I can't, there's too much chemicals in this, like, a vegetable is. That's just like if I tell you that, oh, vitamin C, you're like, oh, cool. But if I go, oh my God, it's L-ascorbic acid, you're gonna be like, no, it's an acid. I can't put it on my face. I can't eat that. It's vitamin C. So it's just, I think that is very useful. I think
So you can go to the supermarket and be like, and kind of know what is in what.
That's my goal. I want to know every chemical ever, and then later, be like, nah, that one not good. That would be nice. Actually.
But some are good.
Yeah, some are good.
Don't get scared by the long scientific name. Okay, so a step back. Before U20, so you lived a while in Bangladesh. So when you were in Bangladesh for like your prior education, how did you come into contact with like chemistry, and how did you decide you liked chemistry and wanted to go into chemical and science engineering?
So science was mandatory, so you had to do science, and math was again mandatory. But math I liked from when I was a child. It's just numbers, you can manipulate it. You can just, the moment you understand how to do it, you can just do it forever. And I was like, okay, I want something with math related. And then I did sciences, and for a moment I was into physics. I was like, okay, physics, kind of cool. Astrophysics, I feel like that's everybody though. Astrophysics is very cool to everyone.
Rockets.
Always, yeah. So, but then I did, when I was doing more science, then I later chose A-levels. I did edXL A-levels, so that's the British system. And then when I did A-levels, I did physics, chemistry, biology, and math, because science lover, And then I was like, I did more physics, and I just realized I did not like physics that much. Physics, especially like, I don't know, it was fun, but it was just not my thing. But chemistry, we just had so much scope, and it made less sense than physics did, because physics I still think is more logical than chemistry, but it's just organic and like compounds. And I was very into skincare at one point in my life, and all the chemicals, and it was just like, okay, chemical engineering sounds like a fun thing to do, and you can also, because my other option was chemistry. But I liked math too much to just do chemistry, so I went to chemical engineering instead. So
you knew early on, or when did you kind of, around what age or what time did you realize, I like this, and I might want to pursue this?
Pretty late, I think, because around 17, 18, I think, because I was very unsure. I'm so indecisive, so I was like, okay, medicine, mechanical, like so many options that you could do. And then I chose this, and I like it. So
that's great. That's essential. And I mean, everyone takes their own time to figure out what they like. But yeah, it's not that late on. Okay, so moving on. So you're here and you study here, and in general, engineering is a field where there's a very low woman amount, like percentage in courses. Chemical engineering is a bit higher compared to all the different types, and you told me that in your year, and actually the year before, they have quite a good ratio, around 40, maybe a bit more now after the second year, of women in the course. But I'm curious, because, so we all say like, okay, if we manage to get to a certain ratio, well, now everything will be perfect because now the ratio is equal, so everything's fine. But are there still underlying like problems and challenges you face of studying just engineering as a woman in your year, or in chemical engineering?
I feel like, because we're 50%, so it's exactly 1-to-1. So, but I am so comfortable in my class, because like when I compare myself to other women in STEM, they always say that, oh, it's just like very little circle of girls, and it's just us as like, us against all of it. But for us, it's like you can have multiple friend groups of girls, and it's just like, oh, it's a normal environment, basically. So you'd never feel it. You don't feel it as strongly, I think, definitely, and they're so supportive, and I love being around women anyway. So it's like a very supportive environment. But then when you work with men, I think it's just always a little more different than it is when you work with women.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's again everywhere, and again, it's not all women or all men,
Yeah.
obviously.
Definitely.
But like there are instances where you think, oh, I would not be doing it the same way he would be doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the way he's doing it too, so it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm curious. So in what I've seen through my friends and a bit myself too is, for instance, in project groups. I mean, of course, there's always going to be, we have luck that we have quite a bit of women too. Not that many, but we have some in each group. So there's groups with men and women, and it's never the man or the woman like you're saying. It's like the people, like certain round of people. But then you have more patterns sometimes in men. But like in a project group, we're working together, and there's instances where I don't know, we're working on something on a very specific part of the project, and it's just this thing where if something goes wrong in the project and you're working on it, it's that accountability or something like that. Like a woman is more likely, or I feel like me and my friends are more likely to like internalize that the problem as being ours, or lack of being able, not lack of worth, but like lack of skill or something like that. Even though everyone in a project, when we start, no one knows what's happening. And then slowly we start to figure it out and like understand it. But at the start, we don't know what's happening anyway, but we'll internalize it more than our male peers in general. And I'm wondering if that's like a cultural thing. But is that something you have seen in your course too, or not at all?
It is. People often treat me like I'm a little more like ditzy than they don't. I feel like sometimes a lot of whenever I have worked in a project group with men, it's especially to other like women, they don't give them as much credit, or they don't believe. I don't. It's not something that you just say out loud, like, oh, you're not smart, you're not as smart as me. But sometimes when you do things, you can sort of feel it, like they're questioning you. And especially other men, like sometimes there have been times, I have a very smart friend in my class, and I've worked with her for most of my projects. And people at the beginning of the module, like module 1, module 2, I guess, people would rather ask a guy that was not even a part of the project questions about our project than ask her or me. She's very smart. Like I consider myself okay, but she's very smart as a person. Like she's the smartest person I know in our study. And people would rather ask like this random second year that failed at least like 2-3 classes than ask her, because I feel like they don't give her enough credit. But she knows way more and she understands way more. But it's just that I guess that's just how it is. And whenever I feel like, especially in module, like the rest of the modules, because module I think 3 and 4 I worked with an all-women group. But the rest of the modules, I always felt like, not even just my project group, but in most project groups, I find men a lot more confident than women are. Because girls are always like, oh my God, I don't know anything. Or even if I knew something, I'd be like, okay, I think this is the value, but I'm not really sure. Maybe you can check it yourself. But I read on it. I kind of do know. But even now I'm saying I kind of do know, but I know is the point. But like, I guess it could be like the whole you're more humble thing, but I'm not sure what it is. I don't think it's a bad thing either, or like the man's confidence is a bad thing either. It's just that they are, and I wish I was a little more confident with myself also to say things that I know with like just certainty, so that people don't question me, but people question me anyway. So they treat me a little like, I feel like it also depends on how you carry yourself. And if you're more on like the friendlier side, they just don't take you seriously at all. And that's something that I've just come to accept, because I like how I am now. I'm not going to be like very serious and stoic just so that these people would take me seriously.
And anyway, with your work, and if you're saying like you're working in an all-girl group, or you're working anyway, with time, we'll see what you do, and then you'll be able to demonstrate anyway your skills. And I mean, who are you proving? You don't have to prove yourself to anyone, right?
Yeah, module 3 module 3 and 4 when we were working in our all women's group, we were thriving. Our grades were so high. It was crazy, and I was there was no like, oh my god, do this, do that, or just there was no like tension. It was so chill. I really love working with women actually. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And okay, something I'm also curious about is I don't know if you know the concept of hard and soft skills.
okay.
So I mean, for anyone listening, anyway, hard skills is more like actually task related and like the competence to get the project done, or like programming, coding. And then soft skills is like how you work with someone, and it's more on personality and things like that. And I'm curious if with soft skills, usually we associate it more with women. And if there's expectation, when you go into a group that a woman will have to work a bit more on the group dynamics, listen and stuff like that. Because I've had friends also who were in a project group and they said an idea. And sometimes men would go and say the exact same idea that they had already said. And I wonder just this thing of listening and being able to, manage a group. I mean, both skills are important, but if often women are expected to have these more than men, I don't know if that's something you've seen or something that applies.
Yeah, so I am a learning assistant now, which is basically like a tutor. So what I do is I tutor groups that are first years. And if you compare my year, where we were more women, I think it was just like I always want a pleasant working environment. So, and I like feminine things. So like I like being feminine. I don't care about it. And it's just soft skills. It's something I genuinely appreciate because I don't like bad group dynamics, and I know that it's like an expectation that falls. That is true. It's like an expectation that falls on women, and then like the men are like, okay, I'm gonna code this. Like, okay, sure, I can also code. Actually, no, I'm pretty bad at it, but most women can code. Okay, but it's just it's there definitely, and I feel it less because I think I appreciate it more. But I think with my friends, I think some of them are burdened by it, and the need to always this though. So this is one of my friends. She went in, I think in like module 2 or something. She worked with a project group that was, I think, 1 girl, 2 girls, and 4 guys, I think. And none of the group was doing work, and the girl, I think, was just not into it either. So then she's a very nice person in general. I love her. But then she had to be very assertive and very dominant, and just to get things done. I think at one point she was yelling at them. And then, but like, that made people not people were like, oh, it just made them hate her. But like the need to always, like, you can't always be like, oh my God, can you please do your work? Okay, pretty please. Like, you can't do that when you're doing a project. And I see guys being like very, I don't know, assertive also. But it's never like, oh, can I swear on here?
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's never like he's a bitch. Like, nobody's gonna say that about a man. Like, oh, he's just a man. He's just a person that wants to get things done. Okay, cool. He's like a boss dude, whatever.
Yeah.
But like, she would be a bitch. Like, people would just be like, oh my God, she's a bitch, and she's on her period, or like PM. Like, God.
Yeah.
She's just trying to get the work done. Also, I don't know why you think
Stigma where it's like. Not the same thing for both genders for some reason.
No, it really isn't. I don't know why you think that, because she's so capable again, and people are just like, oh my God, she's a bitch. No.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think it's this thing, I was talking earlier with some friends that like, okay, and what I'm seeing what you're saying is that, okay, so now you have a ratio that's equal, but there's still this thing missing. Like, there's still time needed, and there's a transition that's going to have to take place before these things are fixed. Because, okay, yes, first thing is getting more women in these fields. But now we need also, like, culture. We need, like, lots of different things to, like, really reach a level where everything's comfortable and there's, many things to battle. But, yeah.
That's true. It's just, again, my study is just gender ratio-wise, it's very equal, and it's a very comfortable study. And I don't think it's it's also like a personality thing, I guess. Just not exactly all men or all women, just different personalities just coming together to do stuff, but still there's still an underlying sense of, that women are just treated a little, I guess, less smarter, or I like a better word. Okay. I need to think of a better word for this, but like it's just that I feel like women don't get as much as credit, but in my year, I fully believe that most of the smartest people in my year are women. Just generally, it's kind of it's just how it is, and
but it's nice that your whole class is supporting, and you can really like focus on the chemistry and science and not on the things that lay behind it as much.
No, we're not very focused on that, because again, it's a pretty equal study, and I'm so grateful every day, because I don't think I'm in a mood to like wake up and be like, okay, time to battle the gender gap. It's not my mood every day. It's I'm glad I don't have to do it, and I'm sad that people like in Sri Lanka, for example, people have to do it. I think only 3% of the engineers are women, so that's a ratio that I'd have to wake up to every day.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time. I think this was an interesting conversation, and I hope it brought value to others. Definitely brought value to me. So thank you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you liked it, please share it with your friends and family. And stay tuned, because in 2 weeks, the next episode will be released.